Welcome back to Hashtag Griff Sports, everybody. I'm Joe Retigliano.
And I'm Kyle Ferrara, back at the big boy desk with you all today. It was a tough weekend for our sports teams here on campus. We'll get to that in a minute. We'll have John Langley and Jordan LaBarber in Studio B to talk men's hoops, and we'll talk about Griff softball, who got their season underway this last weekend.
Unfortunately, the only team to come away with a victory was women's basketball against Niagara this weekend, and a big victory it was at that, but it was even bigger for the Battle of the Bridge, which we'll get to in a little bit.
We'll update you on those scores, and let's get to the action right now. We'll start with the men's basketball team who hosted Manhattan on Friday. That game was on ESPNU, and unfortunately the Jaspers were a little too much for the Griffs. Early on, Chris Manhertz took an elbow to the face, and that would really hurt the inside presence for the home team.
Yeah, and the injury to Manhertz would play a major role in this game. At the half, Manhattan would lead by a score of 47-35, and the Griffs would trim the lead to 5, but that would be as close as they'd come. They'd fall by a score of 84-73, and the Griffs were killed inside by Ashton Pankey and Ramel Brown of Manhattan. Also, the Griffs were led by Billy Barron with 22 points, 7 rebounds, and 7 assists, and also Dominique the Dr. Rainey added 15 points off the bench in the losing effort.
A few good games for Rainey in a row the last week or so, but that loss combined with a victory by Iona at Niagara that night meant Sunday's matchup really had a lot at stake. A victory for the Griffs would mean they would still be in first place, and they could avoid any sort of tiebreaker down the road with the Gales. Unfortunately, that's not quite how it went. Iona came away with a 101-91 shootout victory. The Griffs, playing without Manhertz, who's also doubtful for this weekend's games, could not handle David Laurie inside, who came off the bench to score 23 points. A.J. English also had a tremendous game for the Gales, scoring 32 on 10 of 17 shooting. The Griffs' balanced effort was not enough. Billy Barron had 24 points. Chris Perez poured in a smooth 25, and Jordan Heath had 16, with Phil Valenti contributing 15 as well.
Well, and when you get contributions like that, you assume you probably come away with a win, especially with 91 points. Not the case today. A tough weekend for the men's basketball team. This pits them in a 3-way tie for second place with Quinnipiac and Manhattan, which makes this weekend all the more important.
So tied for second place. Where does that leave the Griffs in the MAC power rankings? For that, we'll send it to Studio B with Jordan LaBarber and John Langley. We'll talk about that and preview the matchup at Niagara Friday night.
Hey everybody, I'm Jordan LaBarber. I'm here with basketball expert John Langley. We're here to discuss this week's power rankings in the Metro Atlantic Athletic Conference. John, there was some change at the top. Why don't you run through the rankings for us this week?
Well, 5 is still Rider, of course. They haven't moved pretty much the entire year, and that's probably where they'll stay. They're at 8 and 6 right now. At 4, we've got Canisius, and I'll get back to them in a second. Number 3, we've got Quinnipiac. Number 2, Manhattan, and number 1, Iona. But to get back to Canisius, why the fall from 1 to 4, and why behind Quinnipiac? Yeah. Well, when you lose to two of the top teams, you're not showing that you can contend with the top. You don't. To me, you've got to be able to beat one of the top 2 teams if you're going to be in the top 3. Quinnipiac's proven that. They've beaten Manhattan. They've beaten Iona. They've proven they can contend with the big dogs. Canisius beat Iona once, but lost in 11-point loss to Manhattan. It didn't really even seem that close. They had to trim it in the first half, and it never really got close. And they beat them up.
Yeah. Well, Canisius did beat Quinnipiac, though. You don't think that's enough to put them ahead of that for that top 3? You think even though Quinnipiac got beat relatively easily by the Griffs, Griffs still fall behind them?
Yes, because Ike Ezetam was not fully healthy that game.
Okay.
How many times am I going to count on Umar Shannon to not shoot that well? How many times am I going to count on all of their guards to not shoot that well?
Yeah.
I have a tough time believing Quinnipiac plays the same way they did against Canisius the first time. Does that mean Canisius won't beat them when they come to the Kessler Athletic Center? Absolutely not. Canisius could absolutely beat them, and I still think Canisius is one of the best. That's why the top 4 is really interchangeable right now. They're one of the best teams. They're all very, very deserving of being up there. But right this minute, Canisius is behind Quinnipiac.
Well, you got a chance to see up close, finally, Manhattan and Iona in the same weekend. Talk about what you saw from what you think are the top 2 teams, and what puts Iona ahead of Manhattan for your position as best team in the conference.
Well, their record dictates it,
okay.
For one.
That's the easy way out.
That's the easy way out. But Iona's incredible. They score at will. And David Laurie, once they switched him to coming off the bench, no one's adjusted to it. No one has found a way to stop David Laurie off the bench. Sean Armand scored 10 points against Canisius. They still put up 101 points. That's incredible. Your best player, one of the best scorers in the nation, puts up only 10 points, and you still score 101. That's insane. But Manhattan, I was a little down on them a little bit once they lost a couple of games there. But Ashton Pankey destroyed underneath. Ramel Brown is much bigger than I thought he was, and he was blocking shots. And I know a lot of people weren't happy with the refs that game, but Canisius didn't play strong enough. The bigs were not. It doesn't help that Chris Manhertz went out with a fractured nose. So
yeah, certainly. And you went through the top 5, you know, approaching towards March here. But one team that we have towards the bottom is Niagara. And the Griffs will be headed to Niagara tomorrow night for their longly anticipated Valentine's Day game. What do we expect from that game? It is a rivalry game, but the teams are far apart in the standings. Are we going to see a close one or another blowout?
Did we think Niagara would contend with Manhattan and Iona? We didn't think they'd keep it close, but Niagara found a way to lose those games. And the old cliche is you either find a way to win or you find a way to lose. Niagara found a way to lose those games, and that's incredible. I don't know how they lost it, but Niagara, they're going to contend. They're really going to battle, but in the end, Canisius really should pull this out. They're more talented. They're better all around. They've got a better rotation, even with Manhertz likely not playing tomorrow night. I think this is a game that Canisius can't afford to drop after losing the last 2 games if they really want, because they're in danger of falling into that 4 and 5 game in the MAC tournament. That is, and what happened last year when they fell into the 4 and 5 game?
Losing the first round to Iona.
Yep.
So you want to stay out of that 4th spot. 6 games left. What do you think Canisius finishes? How do you think they close this season out?
They finish with Manhattan is one of the games. Riders, one of their games, and Quinnipiac. Those are the 3 toughest games.
Yeah.
Ideally, I think they need to finish 4 and 2. I think that's probably the worst case scenario, in my opinion, that they need to finish. Riders a tough game. Manhattan's your tough game. Quinnipiac is at home, so you really want to get that.
Yeah.
But Siena, Niagara, and Fairfield, you need to beat them. Plain and simple.
Okay, well, that's John Laney. I'm Jordan Barber here with this week's MAC Power Rankings. Now back to Kyle Farrar and Joe Tigliano.
Thanks, Jordan and John. And when we come back, we'll have a recap of the weekend for the Ice Griffs. And Kyle was able to sit down with Courtney Van de Bovenkamp, so stay right there.
There was one day that we had just done the cardiovascular unit, in class that day. And then right after class, I went over to the Vascular Institute, volunteered, put the scrubs on. And one of the doctors asked me if I wanted to see an open heart surgery. And so I said, really? Sure.
I came into Canisius as obviously as a freshman, not really sure what I wanted to do. I ended up taking a digital media arts class, and that really just kind of jump-started, my career.
And I think being where we are in the city and in the world with the medical campus that we have here is really an opportunity that I wouldn't have anywhere else.
It's more than just academics. Meet different people. Go out and do things. There's so much more to college. It's an experience.
I instantly fell in love with doing video work, graphic design. I started pursuing more and more opportunities in the school, whether it was doing admissions videos on the sides. I did a couple videos for alumni relations, the president of the college, and then I actually got noticed last year, and they sent me over to the Philippines to create a feature-length documentary.
I lived with a host family while I took classes in Spanish with Spanish professors at the University of Oviedo, and I was a Spaniard for a semester, and it was the best decision I made as a college student.
And we are back. Kyle, tell us about the weekend that the Ice Griffs had.
Well, Joe, going back to last Thursday when the Griffs were at Niagara, they were able to make a bit of a comeback. They trailed 4-2 in the 3rd period in that game before coming back to knot up the game at 4 and get out of there with a tie. The Griffs got goals from Kyle Gibbons, Matthew Grayson, Doug Jesse, and the game-tying goal from Ben Danford. In the draw, Cody Freeman, Ralph Kademi, and Shane Conacher each had 2 assists.
And on Saturday, the Griffs jumped out to a 2-1 lead heading into the 3rd period. And yet again, facing Niagara, the Griffs could not hold the lead, and they would allow 3 unanswered goals to fall yet again to Niagara, this one being the final 4-2. The Griffs would get goals from Ralph Kademi and Braden Rigney. Up next for the Ice Griffs, Air Force comes into town this Friday and Saturday, another big contest for the Griffs. And all that leaves the Griffs right now in 7th place in the Atlantic hockey standings. They're 9 points behind the conference-leading Mercyhurst Lakers, who they've played well against so far, so it's not too far off.
You know, they're still right in the mix, and let's talk about the only victory from this weekend now. It would come from the women's basketball team against those same Purple Eagles. That was last Friday, and it was a big win at that. The Griffs came away with a 62-53 victory led by Jamie Ruddle's 19 points. Lauren DeHaat, the superb freshman, chipped in 14 off the bench, and Courtney Van de Bovenkamp with 7 points and 10 boards.
And unfortunately on Sunday, the Griffs could not come away with a road victory against Quinnipiac. The Griffs would fall 65-51. Jamie Ruddle led the Griffs with 12 points, and Jen Morabito added 11 for the Griffs.
With the victory for women's basketball and the tie and loss from the hockey team, the count for the Battle of the Bridge score now reads like this. Canisius, 10.5 points to the Niagara 8.5. Joe, what does that 2-point advantage mean?
Well, this weekend it's huge. The Griffs have a men's basketball game tomorrow, and then the MAC Swimming and Diving Championships. Now, here's what happens. The MAC Swimming and Diving Championships, each team, the men's and the women's team, if both of them finish in front of Niagara, it's 4 points. Each team gets 2 points to win. The men's basketball game is also worth 2 points. So, if the Griffs can come away with 3 victories and they sweep Niagara this weekend in both swimming and diving and men's basketball, it'll be over. The Battle of the Bridge is over. We keep the cup, and because 6 points this weekend, we only need 6 to get the win, so that would be huge for the Griffs. Talking about a 4-peat could be over like that.
And to do that before spring sports even get underway, that would be demoralizing, you would think, for the Purple Eagles.
Be great.
Moving on now, yesterday, like we said, I was able to sit down with the very popular Courtney Van de Bovenkamp to get her thoughts on her road back from injury, the progress of the women's basketball team, and what her future might look like.
Kyle Ferrara for #GriffSports. I'm here with Courtney Van de Bovenkamp of the Griffs women's basketball team. And Courtney, you've had a long road back this season to get back into the starting lineup a month ago. Last year, you were hurt. I know there's certain limitations to what you can talk about injury-wise, but what's it been like for you getting back into the starting lineup after so long?
Yeah, last year the ACL tear was obviously a huge blow, and it's been really hard. It was hard last year to sit out and support my team from the sidelines. This year, coming back, I was working really hard in the summer, and so that really helped me. But then, obviously, I think that the meniscus tear in the beginning of season set me back even further. So, yeah, lots of obstacles, but my drive to get back has been just really focused, and it took me a long time to just get back into the swing of things. There's certain things where you just need game experience, and I had to have those highs and lows early, but now I feel like I'm playing the best basketball that I've played since I've been here. And I'm just more confident in what I can do, not thinking about my knee at all. It's just all about the game, all about the girls. No injuries on my mind, so that's helping me.
When you take yourself back to the beginning of this season, do you think it's gone the way you expected so far?
No, I think right now we as a team feel like we are not getting it done in a way that we kind of expected to. I don't think if you would have asked us if our record would be 5-9 at the beginning of the season, we would be like, oh yeah, for sure. Like no one would be happy with that result. We've lost games where we've led at halftime. I can think of 3 that just come to the top of my head. So. Results-wise, I don't think we are, but I also think that we're in a really good place to keep building. We have 6 games left, healthy bodies, and we're ready to go. We're really focused. So it's not really about the result now. It's more about the climb of where we're going to be come in a month, and I'm very confident in what we have going on here.
What's it been like playing with some of these younger girls, like T's a sophomore, Lauren DeHaat's just a freshman, but they play really good basketball. What have you been able to teach them, or maybe on the flip side, what have you gained from playing next to them?
Yeah, I think that what freshman and sophomore bring to you is just they remind you of what it's like to just be new and be fresh in basketball, and they listen really, really well. we have strong leadership. We have 4 seniors who are like captains of our team, and the younger girls listen well, but T, we look to her a lot to lead our team. Like, she's a point guard, so regardless of age, like, she leads our team. So obviously we have huge contributions there. What I just try to teach as just the older player is just to have like poise and moments where the game's on the line or we need a big stop. That's where the leadership part really comes in, where you're not thinking about being nervous. You're just, you know, you have to get it done. And I feel like the 4 seniors, we bring like that poise and experience to balance out the youth in our team.
So you're a redshirt junior, and your future isn't quite decided yet. But when you're eventually graduated from Canisius and looking for that next chapter in your life, what do you think you're going to be doing?
Well, right now I have 2 degrees. I have English and I have adolescence education. So that sets me up to be some type of like high school English teacher. I want to pursue graduate studies. I'm thinking in English. So eventually I'd love to be like a college professor in English. Also, I have like aspirations to travel a lot, so I could really see myself going like overseas or to some like developing countries and teaching English and maybe getting involved with some nonprofit organizations. So I have nothing set in stone, but a lot of different options that I really want to explore like after graduation. So
That would definitely be an exciting field to be able to see the world. And
yeah, but it would be weird to walk away from sport. Like, I can't see myself, like, I know that wherever I am, I'll be like incorporating sports into something, giving back to it. So
well, whatever you end up doing, best of luck to you. Again, Courtney Vanda Bovenkamp of the women's basketball team, reporting for #Griff Sports. I'm Kyle Ferrara.
Great stuff from Courtney Vanda Bovenkamp. I don't know about that guy next to her, though.
Yeah, that guy, weird. Not. Next up for Courtney and the rest of the women's basketball team are 2 contests this weekend at the Kessler Athletic Center. Tonight they play host to Manhattan, and on Sunday, the Siena Saints march into town.
We have some new Canisius Athletics Hall of Fame inductions for the 2013 year. We'll get to those coming right up. And welcome back. So, like we teased Joe with the recent induction ceremonies for the Canisius Athletics Hall of Fame this weekend, our correspondent Brett Zanive was on hand to take in the festivities.
Although the new Sports Hall of Fame inductees were formally honored Sunday, February 9th, first at Montante Cultural Center and then following at the basketball game, festivities began the day before as the hockey team took on Niagara. I mean, it's been almost 20 years. How was it being a 21-year-old back here at Canisius College?
Well, 21 years old was a little while ago for me now, but it was definitely an exciting time. The halls here, although they may be painted and some facelifts, the echoes and the memories still remain the same. And the buildings, they just reap enthusiasm. And yeah, back when you're 21, I got the chance to play college hockey at a competitive level and meet a lot of good friends, and still keep in touch today. So just a very exciting time in my life. As a hockey alumni, we're extremely proud and honored, and looking forward to the future for sure.
I spoke with Mark Miyashita, class of '03, and got his thoughts on the Canisius College lacrosse program, past, present, and future.
So I don't want to draw attention to 11. It's not that big a number, but you know what was it like? Being a 21-year-old kid at Canisius College.
It was great. It was a wonderful opportunity. At the end of the day, would I do it again? Absolutely. Going out and playing lacrosse with your roommates, your friends, the guys that you spend most of your time with, and walking out there was always exciting. And even if we weren't the best team in the country, being able to go out and battle and compete every week was exciting, and it was always a very, very proud moment to put on the jersey and go play for your school. I think, since I've been here, everything's been moving forward to improving the facilities. They've got a wonderful locker room, an ability to do film, and that's you've seen that with the 2 MAC championships. Better facilities, better funding, and it's only going to continue to grow and get better. The game's growing across the country, and hopefully as those things increase for the team, our success rate continues to grow.
All right, thank you so much.
Thanks a lot. Appreciate it.
I also spoke with Brian Dukes, class of '03, about his thoughts on Canisius College basketball, and a little more.
Besides for the outcome, it was very good. Great crowd, and Griff's played tough. Well, Billy's a great player, and he's unreal, but he's more of a true first point guard, where I was more of a pass second point guard. In the summertime, I speak to almost every local basketball camp about my story, and I'm just always believe in get busy living or get busy dying. My favorite pair is I don't actually own them, but they're the Jordan 12s, the white and black kind.
Thank you, and band, go Griff.
This is Brett Deneve reporting for #GriffSports.
Such a great class of former Canisius athletes, and here at Griffin TV, we would like to congratulate Derek Bishop, Brian Dukes, Mark Miyashita, Joe Wright, Dr. Keith Stubbe, and the entire 1994 softball team, and just a great bunch of people elected to the Canisius Athletics Hall of Fame.
Yeah, and a great softball team 20 years ago. Speaking of softball, the Griffs got their season underway this weekend, splitting their opening 4 games. They beat Bucknell and Bowling Green by scores of 11-10 and 4-2, respectively, behind the hot bat of Megan Kuda, third baseman. She had 2 home runs and 7 RBIs in the 2 victories. Their 2 losses both came by a score of 9-0. The loss to Cleveland State was shortened to just 5 innings.
And coming up this weekend for the Griffs, the baseball team will travel to Cary, North Carolina, where they will take on St. Joseph's, Butler, and Michigan State.
Both men's and women's lacrosse are back in action. The women's team has 2 high-profile matchups as they play on the road against Syracuse and UNC.
And those are the top 2 teams in the nation, UNC being number 1, so that'll be something to look forward to. The Syracuse game is on ESPN3 on Sunday at 1. And in the meantime, the men will take on a brand new program, the Boston University Terriers, and that'll be on Saturday, so that should be an interesting game.
Don't forget about Griff swimming and diving. We touched on it a little while ago. Our own Brandon Rudd is there doing something. Joe, let's move on to this week's Golden Performer of the Week.
Kyle, a little bit of a curveball this week, and that wasn't supposed to give away the type of sport anyway. We're going to go with sophomore Megan Kuda of the softball team as she hit 2 home runs, including 1 grand slam, as well as having 7 RBIs on the weekend. She was responsible for all 4 of the Griffs runs in their win over Bowling Green.
A very nice weekend for the sophomore sensation. Moving on to our play of the week, it's going to be right here. Phil Valenci dishes to Josiah Heath in the corner. Somebody should tell Manhattan to bring their umbrellas out. It's a tad rainy. Dominique Rainey throws it down. The Griffs would get their 9th and 10th points in the game for that. Joe, say something nice about this.
That was incredible. And I'll tell you what, I was under the hoop, and when he put that down, I almost fell myself. That was an incredible dunk, and it really got the crowd just pumped up. It was crazy. Keep watching out for the rainy references. That just about wraps it up for all of us here at #Griff Sports. Until next week, I'm Joe Retigliano.
I'm Kyle Ferrara. You can find us online on Facebook. Just type in #Griff Sports to the search bar. Of course, we're on GriffinTV.net as well. On Twitter, @GriffSports4. Make sure to follow us. One lucky new follower will win a pass to see our own C.J. Gates give a 3-hour lecture on the finer points of Olympic curling.
That's fantastic.